All the time I watched it, my brain's going, light animation, gesture animation, font shading, normal mapping, oh, jiggle physics, nice. It wasn't a character in a story anymore. It was a pile of polygons with a wave file dribbling out of its mouth. Robotics is a term for this, of course, the uncanny valley, when something is almost like reality but not quite. It sticks out and becomes disturbing. Compare that to something like Castle Crashers, the cartoon 2D Xbox Live Arcade game where, for the much lower tech graphics, the characters somehow seem infinitely more interesting and expressive. What I'm talking about is immersion. Games are completely about the audience, the player, so drawing them in is vital. And stuff like that Agent Conan interpretive dance business shuts them out. It forces them to see individual mechanics of the game, rather than the experience as a whole. The best character animations are the ones you don't even notice. So, to return to the point, the gist, the thrust of the argument, I think as a general rule, a game is good if you can't see the game, because it's gone beyond 6 out of 10 for graphics. It's gotten past analysis of its every individual component and become a whole greater than the sum of its parts. It's broken through and provoked a raw, empathic response. The user actually feels like they're taking part in something, not just hitting buttons to navigate an avatar around a swarm of ones and zeros. So that's part of it. Good games are games with souls. But it seems like the process of a lot of mainstream game development often seems to be inherently fatal to the soul. This, I feel, is the root of the problem with mainstream games today. It all comes down again to the passion of individuals. Current generation consoles are superpowered behemoths, a statement which I'm sure we'll look back on and laugh at 20 years from now when we're all jacking into the interstellar thought matrix or whatever. But they are powerful by today's standards, and that obliges developers to make use of that hardware and leaves buyers of the console turning their noses up at anything that doesn't have ultra-realistic lighting and a draw distance the size of continental Africa. It's turned mainstream game development into an exclusive big money enterprise. If you want to go up against, say, Half-Life 2, you're going to need a team of 20 guys before you've even figured out the colour of the main character's jumper. It's been a long time since bedroom programmers have been at the forefront of the industry, and it seems like some of the spark has gone away with them. There was a famous psychological experiment where subjects were placed in booths listening to a man in another room talking over a speaker. The man would then claim to be suffering chest pains and then go quiet. Some of the subjects were informed that they were the only ones listening, while others believed that there were several subjects listening to the same man. And it was found that the ones who believed themselves alone would try to call for help, while the others simply sat there, hoping someone else would take charge. I think it was Terry Pratchett who said that you can get the IQ of a mob by taking the stupidest member's IQ and dividing it by the number of people. And the same principle can be seen in game development, when a game project starts suffering chest pains and going quiet, if we want to labour the metaphor. Something I've observed over the many games I've criticised is that it's becoming easier and easier to spot games that were designed by committee. It's difficult to put your finger on, but you can just feel it running through everything, like the words in a stick of rock. It's a weird sort of sense of inconsistency and blandness. Everyone on the committee had ideas for this bit or that bit, but none of them were taking full responsibility. No one seems to care enough about the project to say, no, a boss fight at this point would break flow and just be contrived time sinking, or we have to get all this dialogue redone because it reads like it was written by a pig. You'd think that having more people and more money on a project would make it better, and that seems to be the assumption of the big companies, but it doesn't. When the big money is poured into a project and you've got your top tier graphics and physics engines and maybe one or two unique selling points to hide behind, designed by committee games are the ones that seem like the people involved were just a little bit too quick to say, good enough. Look at the big releases like Halo, GTA 4, Fallout 3. Huge teams playing with huge amounts of money. The games all look fantastic, and there's nothing particularly wrong with the gameplay, but they all have this insipid, soulless quality. It's the little things, a cliche here, a dodgy line of dialogue there, a lingering stench of investment money blown on creating amazing gosh wow special effects with every single dollar on display, throwing subtlety and pacing to the wind. This is the mark of corporate culture. A game can be made by a team of hundreds who all do their individual jobs incredibly well, but there's no one saying, this is mine, this is my game. I would rather play a bad game driven by a single personality than a decent one designed by committee. Take something like Fable, wasn't great, and the gameplay design was severely broken, but the glow of Peter Molyneux's genuine passion for his games made it feel alive. We're going through a bit of a renaissance where the rising popularity of casual games and lower-end titles on networks like the Xbox Live Arcade show that players do appreciate the genuine spark that comes through from a small dev team, or even just a single individual making a small game for the sheer creative fulfillment of it. Game development needs less committees and more individuals. Driving forces, one person with a clear vision and who knows exactly what fits and what doesn't. And that's what I meant by the soul of a game, an actual human soul. And that gets cut in half for each additional person you have to spread the vision over. So, to ultimately answer the question that began with this in a pithy, one-sentence summary sort of way, a good game is a game with two heroes, one playing it and one making it. That's all. That's all I have.
Yahtzee has generously agreed to answer any questions that anybody might have. You'll have two options when you ask the question. You can talk loudly and wait for a microphone to come to you from back here. I might kick off with the first question. I was interested in you talking about looking at games through younger eyes, games that you're playing as a child. I wanted to know, as you've grown up, how your tastes in video games have evolved. Are there some types of games, some genres that you're much less interested in now, some things that might have cut it when you were a kid but that don't as you've grown older?
I think the major change for me has been in adventure games, because when I was growing up, I played little else. I was really into them, so I made a few. But in the recent years, as I've been growing up, playing more games, criticising them, I've come to value stronger gameplay as well as a strong story, because this is what characterises adventure games, really strong storylines. But the gameplay for all of them, well, it was crap. I mean, they're all based around collecting everything you could find and finding the right place for them and waiting for the story to keep going. But yeah, so and these days, well, back in those days, adventure games came out of sort of technological limitations. You could either have a good story or good gameplay, but you couldn't have both, and now you can. So we're seeing less of that sort of adventure game, purely story-based design, and that's a positive step, I think.
Sure. Questions. I get a chance to ask another one. I have to ask it. What is the Australian developed game that you enjoyed playing the most? Not necessarily recently.
Okay. Oh, actually, back when I played adventure games, I really enjoyed Fight of the Amazon Queen by John Pasfield and Steve Stamiatidis back in the day.
It was always going to be an obscure answer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Australian games, I guess, don't spread around as much as they used to.
Question up the back.
Yahtzee, the Renaissance is coming, we know it is. What are you expecting now? And we're on the cusp of a design change. What are you expecting going forward?
Well, that's the thing about Renaissances, isn't it? They're a weird sort of transitionary period, and it'll always remain to be seen what survives.